Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am starting a Spring Boot tutorial series. Before we begin, I assume you are familiar with the core Java concepts and basics of Spring Boot. If you are a beginner for a Spring Boot, no problem. I am going to explain step by step. You will get to know. Okay, let's start. Here, first we'll learn how to create a Spring Boot project. We can create a Spring Boot project in three ways: using Spring Initializer, using STS tool, and using Spring Boot CLI. The standard way to create a Spring Boot project is Spring Initializer. In this tutorial, I'm going to use a Spring Initializer to create a Spring Boot project. Let's go to web browser and just type start.spring.io. It will navigate to a Spring Initializer website. Here we need to select the project, what type of project you need, like a Gradle project you need or Moen project you need. Based on our requirement, we need to select. And based on the language also, the same way we need to select what type of language we need. If it comes to a Spring Boot versions, we need to select, use the stable version. I'm going to use here 3.3.4. Don't use the snapshot versions, those are the unstable versions. And if it comes to a project metadata, I will provide the group name, test, artifact name also is a demo is fine. I will give the project name Spring Boot demo. And I'm going to use the packaging as a .jar files as I'm using the embedded Tomcat server to implement this application. And if it comes to a JDK version, I'm going to use the JDK 17 as it's better to use JDK above JDK 8 versions for our development. And if it comes to our dependencies, we need to use basic dependency Spring Web. The Spring Web is a Spring Boot starter web dependency. It provides the embedded Tomcat Apache Tomcat server to run our application. Using this, we can develop our Spring Boot REST APIs. Also, we have the many more dependencies based on our requirement. We need to use these dependencies. For example, if it comes to a Spring Security, if we want to implement security in our application, we are going to use a Spring Security dependency. If it comes to Spring Data JPA, if you want to implement the MySQL database connection with our application, we are going to use a Spring Data JPA. Currently, we can use a Spring Web dependency. Okay, then generate the application. The application got generated successfully. Now I will go to the downloads folder and I will extract this file. Okay. Now I will open my IntelliJ IDE and I'm going to import the project demo. The project is getting import. Then we will see the project structure, SRC, main, Java, and the application, Spring Boot application class where the execution will get start. In this class, we have the main method. And if it comes to this annotation at the rate Spring Boot application annotation, this is the main annotation we need to use for the main class. Mainly this application is this annotation is the combination of enable auto configuration annotation, component scan annotation, and configuration annotation. Combination of these three annotations will become the Spring Boot application annotation. So here, if it comes to enable auto configuration notation, it tells for Spring Boot all the configuration should be happen automatically. If it comes to component scan annotation, it indicates that all the components should be scanned while executing the our application. And if it comes to configuration, what it indicates means what are the classes annotated with at the rate configuration, those are the configuration files. Okay, then what we will do if it comes to a pom.xml. This is a pom.xml where we need to add the required dependencies. Initially, I have added the Spring Boot starter web, so it is present here. If we want to use the Spring Data JPA, then we need to add the extra dependencies in this section. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll create a simple REST API to test our application. So before that, we'll try to run this application. Let's see the application will run successfully or not. Meanwhile, I will create one package. I will name it as a controller, and inside this package, I will create one file, test test controller. So this is a test controller class. We need to make this class as a REST call. Okay. For that reason, we are going to use one annotation REST controller. So for which class we are going to use REST controller, that class will become a REST endpoint. So this class will handle all the incoming web requests. Also, we can add the request mapping as a test/test. In this class, we are going to create one endpoint. It will return as a string as output, as a response. Okay, string demo hello world. And for this end method, I will add the get mapping. Okay. So what it will indicate to the get mapping means we have the multiple HTTP methods. Okay. For example, get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, and delete mapping. We need to use the get mapping whenever we want to implement the fetch detail any if you want to fetch any details from the table. At that time, we are going to use the get mapping. If you want to store the data into a table, at that time we are going to post a request. Okay. At that time, we are going to use the post mapping. Let's see now we are using get mapping. Okay. Then I will restart this application. See the it started on the Tomcat port 8080. Now what we'll see, we will hit this endpoint from the anywhere from Postman or through Chrome. Anything is fine. Now we'll try to create an endpoint. Okay, what is the endpoint will be HTTP colon slash slash localhost 8080 port slash what is the request mapping? The request mapping is slash test. What will be the endpoint? Endpoint is demo. So this is the endpoint we have created now. We'll try to hit this endpoint. Let's see what will be the response. Yeah, it successfully returned hello world. This is the way how to create a simple REST API. Okay, in this tutorial we have completed how to create a simple Spring Boot REST API. In the next tutorial, we will create entire the complete Spring Boot application like using here we have created only one layer like controller layer. The next tutorial we'll see we are going to create a service layer and repository layer and all the get mapping, post mapping and delete mapping, all the functions we have to implement. Okay, we'll get to know in the next tutorial. Thank you. Please subscribe my channel and like the video for more videos. Thank you.